This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.
Let's talk about Sandra Birchmore, because once you hear her story, you're going to realize just how deep the rot in this system goes. Not just the police department, but in the kind of institutional complacency that yet let a young woman die and still tries to sweep it under the rug. This isn't a story about a woman who slipped through the cracks. It's a story about a woman who was pushed. That's what we're going to dig into today. Find out what happened, what it means, and also what is next in the very dark case of young Sandra Birchmore. To get us started, be sure to press subscribe wherever you're downloading podcasts or watching us on YouTube, and be sure to hit subscribe there and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this case and all of the cluster F-ness that it is. On YouTube is where you can do that. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel. If you're not there yet, just search Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. So, Sandra Birchmore, she was 23 years old, pregnant, and living alone in Canton, Massachusetts, an apartment in February of 2021 when she was found dead. Initially, suicide. That was the story that the public got. But let's be real. Anytime you hear suicide followed by pregnant woman with a police boyfriend, the red flags start popping like fireworks. And in Sandra's case, they weren't just red flags, they were bloodstains. Here's what prosecutors now say really happened. Sandra had been groomed and sexually exploited for years by Matthew Farwell, a Stoughton police officer who first met her when she was just 13. That's right, 13. He was part of a Police Explorer program, supposedly noble mentorship initiative meant to inspire young people to join law enforcement. And what does his grown-ass cop do? He grooms her. By 15, they were allegedly in a sexual relationship. By 23, she was pregnant with a child she claimed and thought was his. Matthew Farwell is now federally indicted for her murder. According to prosecutors, he strangled her because she threatened to expose everything. And then, like a coward, he allegedly staged her death to look like a suicide. Just let that sink in for a minute. After years of grooming a child, manipulating and exploiting her in front of everyone, and allegedly at 15, he started raping her. He killed her then to preserve his own reputation. But the corruption doesn't stop with Farwell. No. Because the deeper you dig, the more names start popping up. Other officers, yes, because it gets worse. Farwell's twin brother and a now former deputy chief named Robert Devine are all tangled in this mess. Devine, by the way, allegedly arranged to have sex with Sandra while he was on duty. Real professional, right? It's insane. And when Internal Affairs came sniffing around, he reportedly lied about it. None of them, except Matthew Farwell, have been criminally charged. Not yet, anyway. Some resigned, some quietly let their police certifications expire, avoiding the spotlight like cockroaches when the kitchen light comes on. Meanwhile, Sandra's family is left to sue them civilly because the criminal justice system hasn't seen fit to hold anyone else accountable. It's kind of hard to do that when the people holding people accountable are the very same people. Let's talk about that pregnancy. For a long time, Sandra believed Matthew Farwell was the father of her unborn child. She told her friends. She texted people about it. She planned a future around that assumption. And then in June of 2025, federal prosecutors revealed the results of a DNA test. And guess what? Matthew Farwell was not the father. The bombshell does not let him off the hook. It just adds another layer of betrayal because Sandra thought the man loved her, that he was the father of her child, and even when she knew something was off, she held on to that illusion. Trauma bonding at its most brutal. You might think, well, maybe she could have gotten help. Maybe someone could have stepped in. And here's the thing. She tried. Sandra told people about her relationship. She reached out to friends. She even hinted at the abuse. But nothing happened. Why? Because when you're up against the cops who control the narrative and also seemingly rape young children in the Police Explorer program, allegedly, who also write the reports, who are the system, you're not just screaming into a void, you're screaming into a void that's been soundproofed by uniforms and badges. The initial investigation was a joke. The Canton Police Department, which had jurisdiction, quickly ruled her death a suicide. Yes, that Canton Police Department, by the way. No serious pushback, no real suspicion. Just another sad statistic. Until finally federal authorities stepped in, the FBI did what law enforcement wouldn't or couldn't. They found the inconsistencies. They uncovered the manipulation, and they finally charged Farwell. Think of that for a moment. All of those years, Sandra's not hiding somewhere. She's living her life. She's telling people about what's going on. And if you think for one moment that other people in that department did not know what the hell was going on and there was something a little weird between Farwell and Police Explorer student, well, wouldn't that be a nice world? If everything was just hunky-dory, nobody had a clue about anything, and this was all just really super secretive. In fact, it wasn't. Because the way it looks, they were passing her around. Even a school resource officer involved in this, having alleged relations with her once she was of age. But just think about how sick that is. These people, this child, this little girl in this Police Explorer program. And these adults targeting her because of who she is, where she came from, vulnerabilities. Still, even now, 3 years later, there is no trial date. The Department of Justice hasn't announced whether they'll pursue the death penalty. And Farwell's lawyers are already gearing up with capital defense experts, which means the case isn't going anywhere fast. Meanwhile, Sandra's name is only just starting to get attention that it deserves. We've been talking about it here for more than a year now. We'll be talking about it a lot as this continues to move forward into the ether. The public on this one divided. Some people hear this story and feel rage. Others shrug. Maybe they think she was complicit. Maybe they believe Farwell's lies. Maybe they've done something similar in their life and it's birds of a feather. And they're thinking, oh, well, you don't always understand. It was a different time. It was, all the BS that people throw out there when they can't deal with the real, as we used to say. That's what happens when the narrative is shaped by those with power. That's what happens when abusers wear badges. Here's the kicker. Sandra's story isn't even unique. That's the real horror. There are other Sandras out there, maybe not dead, but silenced, isolated, gaslit, made to believe their pain is their fault. And the people who hurt them, still patrolling neighborhoods, still collecting pensions, still being protected by the same systems that were supposed to protect her. What about the rest of the cops involved? Officer Joshua Heel, he also had a relationship with Sandra. He resigned, let his license expire, and walked away. No charges, no discipline, no consequences. Deputy Chief Devine, he's still practicing law in Massachusetts. That's right. He went from leading a police department to practicing law, allegedly, even as his name comes up in wrongful death suits. The Massachusetts Post Commission is still deciding whether to decertify him. The hearing's mostly behind closed doors because transparency is not a priority when cops are involved. We've learned that before. We want you all to trust us. We're going to do everything behind closed doors, and when things come out and we do things that look completely opposite to getting justice for someone, don't ask any questions. Sandra Birchmore was a young mother-to-be, a victim of systematic exploitation, and a warning. Her death is what happens when institutional power protects itself at all costs. When communities ignore the signs because the truth is too ugly to face. And make no mistake, if federal prosecutors hadn't gotten involved, Sandra's case would have stayed buried with her. The suicide label would have stuck. Farwell would still be patrolling the streets. The truth? Buried beneath police reports, lies, and silence. But now, we know better. And the question isn't just who killed Sandra Birchmore. The question is who else knew? Who else stayed silent? And how many more Sandras are out there, still trapped in a system that never protected them? It's not just a true crime story. It's a systematic failure with a body count, and we should all be paying attention. And if I were a parent with a child that was in that Police Explorer program at that time, I'd be asking a lot of questions. I'd be asking some hard questions of my kids. Because when there's one, well, there's clearly more, as we learned in this story. But was Sandra the only victim? Or was there others as well? Maybe still living with the reality of how they were abused as well. What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comment section. On YouTube, just search Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski to find us on YouTube, and hit subscribe while you're there. And if you're listening to us on the podcast platforms, hit subscribe there as well so you don't miss any of our reports. My name is Tony Brueski. Be sure to, like I said, to press subscribe. We will talk again real soon.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.